Test 2, 3.
Oh,
You want me to text?
can you hear us, Jeff?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right. We had a little breakdown.
Can you hear
there.
me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, good.
Okay, so welcome everyone to the Hopkinton Select Board meeting. Today's Monday, August 16th. And I'm going to call this meeting to order and start off by voting to allow Jeff to attend via Zoom. I will make that motion.
I'll second.
And we have to do a roll call vote. Anna?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ken?
Yes.
And Stephen?
Yes.
All right, Jeff, you're in. So first up is points of pride. Neil, I will defer to you.
Sure, I have two that I'd like to start with. While I was at Maryland's party, actually, a woman came up and said she lives on Pine Street where they've been doing work on the road, and she was very happy with how friendly and accommodating the highway crew has been as she's passed them after day after day. So she really appreciates that.
Oh, that's nice.
Which is great to hear. And just really a huge shout out to the rec committee, Louise Carr and Mark Newton, who did the food for Maryland's reception, which was just really great. So
Yeah, and it was a lovely event. So thank you to you and everyone who helped put it on. And of course, thank you again to Marilyn for all she's done for the town. Ken and I were there. It was a lovely time.
And Jeff was also there.
Oh, yes, Jeff did show up. Yes, okay. He came as I had to go. And I also just want to say thank you to Chief Yale, who hosted us earlier this week for a tour of the fire station. It's always good to see what's happening on the ground. Anyone else have something they want to share?
Actually, Neil stole my thunder about the woman who talked about the DPW because she came up to both of us. And that was just great. And I'd also like to, again, thank Marilyn for 37 years of service to the town.
Yeah. All right, thank you. So next we have administrative. First up is approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda of August 15th, 2021.
Second.
I'd make it August 16th.
I was going to say. Okay, Anna,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Jeff,
Yes,
Ken, and Stephen.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, approval of the public meeting minutes of August 2nd, 2021.
I'll move.
Second?
All right, Anna,
Yes.
Jeff,
yes,
Ken,
Yes.
Stephen and I were not here, so.
Abstain. Yes.
And approval of the public meeting minutes of August 10th, 2021.
Again, so moved.
Second?
All right, Anna,
Yes.
Jeff. I'll move on to Ken.
Yes.
And Stephen,
Yes.
Jeff. All right, and I think
Yes.
was that, I had to
Yeah,
miss, okay,
sorry.
thank you. Was that
You left early.
Kimball? Oh, okay, and I'll say yes too then. All right, so next is public appointment with Richard and Cheryl Jones. Are you Cheryl? I am. Okay, so I missed the last meeting when this came up again, so I don't know how we want to.
and then spoke up just so that the microphone picks you up. It doesn't pick up back there.
Sabrina, just to give you a little background, when Mrs. Jones and her husband came in, there were just the three of us sitting, and we didn't have all of the information in front of us that we had the prior meeting. So we suggested they come back this evening when there was a full board. And so with that, I'll just turn it over.
Just,
Through
letter. So I wrote a basic letter and sent it. And I was told the letter had all the information it needed, that it didn't I was, well, what was it? It was Monday or something. I was supposed to have it. I contacted and got a hold of Neil. I think he said they were gonna meet the next Tuesday because they needed more information. My letter was fine. They needed to do more investigating. And then I would get a response back. So I was told later from a friend that you could see the minutes online. So I did look at it and I noticed that you had questions, but I was never told that there was any questions, that my letter was not clear. And it just, we wanted to come to be like, I feel like we should, if there's one person that has a question, you know, we do pay our taxes, you know, say all the facts if there's any concern.
Question, person. Seemed a little unclear to me and
What the total dollars we're talking about.
I was not sure, to be honest with you. I mean, I did say in the letter, we did not get a bill. No, I don't recall getting a bill. I was told later we did, Rick signed one and I signed one. I don't recall doing that. I'm not saying it didn't happen. This was 3-4 years ago. I don't remember getting it. I do remember getting a 19 and 20, and we paid it. I paid one in, I think, September, and then I paid the finishing balance in December. And I thought we were all set. And then I believe I know I asked, are we good? Because I wanted to make sure. And then we got a bill for 17 and 18 soon after that, and I called. And it took a little bit to get in touch, because I do know it was during COVID is when we got the bill. So it's no one's fault. It's just things were crazy here, and it was hard to get in touch with in person. And as far as, coming into the office, I have a daycare, so I'm there 6:30, 7:30 to like 5:30 at night. So I can't do it. My husband is still at work, so he leaves at 6. So we could not come in. We were calling, and I know I called a few times before I actually got a hold of someone. And it wasn't always Carol, it was sometimes someone else too. And they said they would have someone contact us. And then it didn't happen. So then I called again. I know my husband called once or twice and the same thing happened. I finally got a hold of Neil, and that's when you said to do a letter. But I wasn't aware of coming to talk either. So I just wish I was told that so that we could voice, we've been to our house 27 years. We have not had issues before. I did not realize that we had 17 and 18, because it just doesn't make sense. Why would we pay 19 and 20 and get interest every, for the rest of them? And I told them, if we owe the bill, absolutely, we'll pay it. I just don't understand why we're paying the interest if we weren't aware that we had the bill.
And Neil, what is the outstanding amount?
I'll confirm this, but I think as of today, 6,905.72.
I didn't look, but
That's
that's
right in that range.
Now, is that,
Of that, $4,563.42 is principal.
And yes, we have our house under contract. I did hear that on the Zoom meeting or whatever it's called. We tried before that to contact. It wasn't, we're waiting till we're selling our house. I thought that was not really the nicest way to put it. Like, ooh, this pot thickens. I thought that was a little rude. We tried before that. It's just now we were trying to speed it up more. We were under contract. We're not anymore. It fell through and it's back on. But we have been trying. Once we got the bill, I did call and say, I thought I paid this. And that's when, you said it was 17, 18.
Anyone else?
I had asked Neil to ask Carol to come, so I don't know if Carol will want to say something.
Carol,
Can I ask a question
yeah,
real quick? I mean, I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I'm sorry that I missed you and your
No, we just
husband
came
coming.
just to, we were told he was having a meeting, so we came.
Okay,
We didn't really discuss too much. We just explained why we weren't there.
okay.
And we said, not, you two are not here. And I said, for the person that was like defending us, I really feel like she should still be here.
Right.
And so they said, come back in 2 weeks.
And I recall when we discussed this the last time around, and we did vote on it. And I was among the board members who voted to not
Yes.
give you guys the relief you were
Right.
asking for. And my reasoning was that it looked like you guys had signed for the bills that showed the water and sewer amounts on there. And so that was at least my reasoning for not voting to give you guys what you were asking for.
Yeah, apparently we did. I
Yeah,
don't recall doing that. That was 17 and 18, so it's what, 4 years ago? I don't recall doing that. I'm not saying it didn't happen.
yeah,
When I do sign the bill, I do have the daycare, so I don't know if I put a paper on a changing table. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I know Rick signed one, and he's always working, so I don't know when that happened. He doesn't recall either. We're not saying we didn't do it.
Right.
We don't remember signing.
and then if my memory is right, it sounds like you guys contacted the town after you paid 19 and 20, the taxes for 19 and 20, and you thought you were all up to date with everything,
Yeah,
right? And so you didn't make those other payments for the water and sewer that were still outstanding.
I did not know.
Okay,
Because what happened for me is we got a bill and it said 19 and 20. So I went, oh, shoot, okay. So I paid one in, I think it was September, and then the rest of it in December.
Mhm.
And that's when I said, are we up to date? Now, I don't know if you just, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I doubt you remember because you talk to a lot of people, but that's when because it just doesn't, I would not pay for 19 and 20
Right.
and dismiss 17 and 18 because you have to pay interest.
Right.
I mean, it's been 27 years. We haven't done this. It's not that, we're trying not to pay it.
and that's what got my attention, I think, is that it seemed odd to me
Yes,
that
we
there
have
was
to
this,
pay it. I mean,
yeah,
even though now we're selling, it's still going to come out in the post, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
we wouldn't, it just doesn't make sense. We did not realize that we owed 17 and 18.
Mhm.
So we're talking about 4,563 in principal, leaving 2,342 in interest. And are you asking to abate the interest
The
only?
interest, obviously, if you did not pay, because Carol said, if you can find your check stubs that you paid it, then, that's fine. If you can't, then you will owe it. And I could not find them, so I'm sure we didn't pay it. But, yeah, we have no problem paying a bill that we owe.
Mhm.
We just didn't want to pay the interest if we didn't know if we owed the bill. I know you were saying, you've been there 27 years, you should know, but once I get a bill is when I pay it. I don't pay attention to water and sewers due about now. We have 4 kids, 7 grandkids, businesses. I don't have it written down. It's when I get a bill is when I pay it.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes,
Jeff. Weren't the letters that were signed for a notice of tax lien?
Apparently, I guess one was. I mean, I know we were trying to get a hold of things, of people, but honestly, when we got the notice is when I started. And then we would forget, and then we would call, we're like, oh, shoot, okay.
Well, I'm in the real estate business, and I can think of nothing more serious than getting a notice that says there's a tax lien on my property. And so
Yeah.
I don't understand from a, call it what you want, I guess, responsibility, concern, whatever you want to call it. I can't imagine getting a notice like that and ignoring it.
but it sounds like that's when they did start reaching out, right? Okay.
Just-
So Jeff, Carol is raising her hand, so I'm gonna go
Great.
to her, then we can come back to you.
I just think I'm able to shed a little light
Okay.
on everything. Well, first off, the water bills are twice a year. That comes out on yellow paper. Don't pay the bills for 1 year. So say you don't pay the bill in 2017. The beginning of 2018, you get a delinquent notice telling you that you have something from the previous year on. So that's the first notice that goes out. That just goes regularly. Then after that, before we put the lien, I sent a certified letter out. And the person who was the town clerk before me did do that. Notify her correctly, because we have all the signed paperwork. Then when I came on in 2019, I spoke with, I don't know if it was you or your husband, but I've been speaking with both of you.
Yes.
And I told you that they were for water and sewer. What happens is if you don't pay it when you're supposed to pay it, and it goes to the next year, and we do a lien, the town pays that off so that we can collect the money, and it becomes now a tax lien. It's not water and sewer anymore. So if you call and you ask, is my 2019 water bill paid?
Okay, I did not know that.
Mhm. I looked on this, because that's what was happening. You were paying the bills that I sent you so that you would be current. But you weren't paying the ones from before me.
So when do I get,
And I told both you and your husband that that's what they were at the time when I spoke.
okay, I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So does that mean,
So if she called in December and she got either myself at that
I
time, I
believe I
think it
got
would have been Deb or Kara, and asked if my 2020 water bill has been paid, we would look and say, yep, it has
Well, I asked if we were up to date. I said, am I good? And then,
been with water.
right, water and sewer.
It's not water anymore. Once it goes to lead,
Well,
becomes
now
a
I
tax
understand
lien.
what you're saying, but I,
But I think that's where some of the confusion may have come in, I don't know.
yeah. And,
But,
and so was that,
these were copies of the lien letters that were sent out that tell you that what Jeff was talking about, if you get something like that in the mail,
right,
you would want to.
right, we were trying to talk.
When did the first one
But
of
this
those
happened
come?
before I was here. This happened back in 2017, 2018. I don't know what happened before me, but I know that I've had conversation with you and your husband
Yes,
about this.
right.
so Anna Lincoln?
I do see where the confusion lies in that. I wasn't aware of that, that that's how the process works. And so if I was delinquent on my water and sewer, and I called and I said, how is my water and sewer paid? And you said yes, I'd be like, great. So I do understand where the confusion lies. And if we're talking about forgiving an interest amount of $2,300, I'd like to propose that we do that.
Tim, what were you gonna say?
I'm not going to agree with Anna.
Okay, fair enough.
It seems like it's gone over a period of years, and it sounded like the discussion waited until a couple of years down the road. Carol, if I'm understanding, the first letter, did the first certified letter go out?
Back in 2017.
Okay. And when did the phone calls with the Joneses start?
With me, when I first got here, this one right here, April 20th of 2020.
So.
But do you have it for when?
I even have your husband's cell phone number on my phone because I texted him my email address here so that he could send information.
Right, but do you have records of before you were here?
Yeah, that's
And
what I mean.
Like when Chuck was here,
Yeah.
and we never contacted Chuck.
Oh, well, I don't know if you ever contacted Chuck, but I know that he probably sent you the bills he needed to send you that tell you you're going to tell him about the property.
So what I'm hearing is that you've missed 17 and 18. I get that. I lose paper bills all the time. And we have records that you signed for them. And then it sounds like then you get the lien letter. And that's when you guys started trying to figure out what was going on. And
No.
no, that's what she said.
They got lien letters
It's not
starting in
until they got
2016.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah, so they get the lien letter and that's when you called about it because you thought that you had paid water and sewer. So you're probably like, what is the lien letter? Right, that's,
Anything that's signed for is a lien. That's.
There's, in 2016, there was a notice of impending lien.
Maybe perhaps if you look at this, you'll maybe understand a little better.
I have.
That had been in our
Thank you.
package.
That was before me. There's two of those.
All in our packet.
Right.
Were made between.
But I talked to both of them and they knew what they were for. They were from, it is now a tax lien because the water bills that you paid.
But it sounds like there was some, like, trying to communicate and get that clarification for probably starting, well, I don't know, at least with you in April 2020 through like recently. So it sounds like missed bills, you get the letter, whatever this 2019 letter is, it says there's a lien. And that's when you said that you tried to call and it, you'd like call but not get someone and try to call again. Is that,
A few times.
I never sent a lien letter to them
okay, well, yeah, so that's,
because they were always current with me.
right, so this is the 2019,
April 9, 2019.
yeah.
April 9.
That's the letter that says we're executing a tax lien.
I'm sorry.
This 2019,
There's more than one. of
Have
those.
you seen all these? Do you have these?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure I've had them.
It's like 6.
These are the notice of impending liens that were signed for by you and your
these
husband.
were 17 and 18.
Did I sign them or did my husband do them?
There was one signed, well, this one was signed for by you.
And these are the letters that we would have sent out. Those are the, hey, in case you forgot the year before, you still owe that.
So these are not
Those are-
signed for,
Those are not, that's regular mail.
but the notice of
Those-
impending
yes.
liens get signed
Yeah.
for.
Yep.
And tell me the dates on those.
Let's see, earliest March 2016, March 2018, and April 2019.
And we have the signed receipts for each of those.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Is it me?
I think it was you in 2 cases and your husband in 1.
Because honestly, when I get mail, I just sign. I do not look at it until after a month.
So I'm trying to figure out, like, on the timing front, like, at what point, so you called in April 2020 because you were
Well, I
still,
believe it was February. When we started getting notices, that's when we were like, oh, shoot, okay. Because I know we tried, and like I said, a lot of it was during COVID. So it's hard to get in touch with someone.
Right.
We did call, and it wasn't always Carol, it was sometimes someone else, and they were like, we will tell someone and they'll get back to you. And we didn't get back, like no one got back. So then we would, wait a couple weeks and then, oh, shoot, we gotta call again.
so it seems like my perspective is, I mean, I would vote with Anna too, but at least if we can't get there as a group, at least abating, starting at the point when they were trying to get in touch and COVID sort of screwed things up, which would be February of 2020.
Which would be
They
after,
must have been in touch with me at some point, Anna, because I have this report printed out 4/20 of 2020 that I spoke with somebody.
and that would have,
So that's during COVID, 4/20 of 2020.
yeah.
And I believe that's when I created a contact in my cell phone for Mr. Jones.
Okay.
But at that point, I mean, is it in your brain, was it clear at that point, like what actually was
I
going on
don't
with
get
the,
any of this, to be honest with you. I know my husband does better than I do. I just, for me, I don't even need to know like the specific of things. I just need to know what I, you know, and before you, I did not realize the right bit about the town pays and then you pay it back.
I didn't.
We had, you know,
Right.
Carol, can I ask a question about this? So this is the 2020, February 2020 notice of delinquent taxes. There are 4 lines on here. One has the code L, meaning lien.
Because I have a previous,
Actually, 2017, 2018.
correct.
And then there's 2019 sewer, 2019 water. It was 2019 sewer and water were paid, 2019. But it's those 2 lines, the 17 and the 18 lien lines that were not paid.
Yes.
which I did not know that was me. I looked at the total.
Well, there's a total here.
Right, but was it 17, 18, 19, 20?
Yep, this is
Yep.
17, 18, and 19.
Okay, then I don't know why I didn't pay. When I got the bill is what I, that's why I did it, one in September and one in December.
I mean, I understand there was some confusion and obviously COVID happened. I think what I keep coming back to is that, you know, we sent out the notices of impending lien and you guys signed for those, which says if you don't pay it off in 30 days, it's going to end up being a lien. And I think in addition to these 3, there was a 4th one from February 2020 in our packet the last time.
That's that one.
Or is
That's
it
the
that
one I was referring to, no.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, I hear what, you know, some of the other board members are saying, but I don't feel compelled to change the way I voted the first time around.
Even
so-
accounting for their attempts to clarify back in 2020.
No, because if you sign for something saying this is going to end up being a lien if you don't pay it in 30 days, and you don't pay it in 30 days, it's a lien. And that all happened years
If you
ago.
don't think you owe it though, because you're trying to get clarity on timing and what you have or have not paid, and you don't think you owe that, I would call too before I sent, if I thought there was a mistake or something.
Well, if I had a 30-day clock before it turned into a lien, you know, I think I would
All right, well, you're more
Sure, that
organized than no, I can relate and I understand. And it just seems like people who've lived here for 30 years, it just seems like out of character enough that I get that like confusion was absolutely part of this. I look at this and I don't understand what exactly it's saying. So I would think at the very least, we could abate starting back to the 2020 timeframes.
We have a sense of what that would be.
They don't know for 2020 though.
But wasn't
But
the interest,
the interest that accrued since
wasn't that
February
considered?
of 2020. That's like a complex equation that we need to figure out what that would be.
They owed that money.
But this, so this
They
is,
were aware that they owed.
okay. But the clock on the interest dating back to 17 would still be,
Mhm.
still ticking.
daily.
Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like we are not in agreement on abatement. Does anyone else want to sign on to trying to sort of split the baby here and do at least some sort of abatement dating back to 2020 when they were trying to get in touch with someone?
I would support that. It's not going to amount to very much money. But
I would agree there was some confusion. Maybe we're getting picayune here, but I could say, well, the interest accrued since 2020, we'll just split it 50-50. Because there is confusion on both, you know. was some confusion.
Okay. So Stephen's in a no abatement zone, and I think Jeff is. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
If it's either no interest back to 2020 or no abatement, I'm in the no abatement camp.
Okay. Is it, I mean, is this like, can we calculate? Someone can calculate what Ken just came up with, what that would be?
Half of the interest.
Isn't on one of these, there's a daily thing that.
Oh, that's
It's
right.
$1.02 a day.
102 a day. All right.
Well, I mean, if that's what we can do, then I guess that's what we can do. So would you like to make a motion for that, Ken?
Okay, so what was the interest amount? Well, I guess what date in 2020 do we want to start with?
February 18th.
Or do you have a record of the first time you spoke with them? Do you remember, what is the date?
So just so I'm clear on what is being proposed, it's an abatement of interest from April, what was the date, Carol?
20.
20.
April 20th to present?
That's 483 days.
Well, that's when you have a record of them calling, but do you, Cheryl, recall, you had this letter that came in February of 2020. Is your memory that you were trying to contact people or?
I mean, honestly, I don't remember.
Okay. Okay, so you want to go with 4/20/20? 10? Anna?
Ken said he would do half that.
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
right,
it was $1.
but to figure out the date that we're
Yeah.
using. Okay.
It was $1 what, a day?
$1.02.
So we're talking $250.
Yep.
And your proposal was to split that, or is that,
No, that's the
250.
split.
that's the split amount? Okay, thank you.
Like I said, it's small, but I recognize there was some confusion.
Okay, so you're gonna, I mean, I think if we're gonna do that small amount, I don't know why we're splitting it, but if somebody's attempting to get clarity and they can't get clarity on what they owe, and I'm not saying that's like, town hall fault or anything, I'm just saying that if the fact of the matter is there wasn't clarity, then I think it's incumbent upon us to at least take that chunk of time and relieve them of that. I don't understand the 50/50 piece, but I mean, I get what you're saying, but I disagree.
Fair enough.
But you're sticking to it.
I think I can support Ken's proposal to split the 50/50.
Okay, so,
We're talking about $246.
Mhm.
well, between that and $0, I guess that's probably the preferred amount. So it sounds like there's no more wiggle room. So Ken, you want to make that, did you already make the motion?
I
you like to?
I didn't make it as a motion.
Okay.
The motion would be that what the actual interest was that was calculated since April 2020. It should be halved for these purposes, and that's something in the range of $500.
Why don't you abate $250?
Okay, fine.
Okay,
That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I move to
Go back and
abate,
figure this out.
$250.
I'll second.
okay. Anna?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Jeff? Ken?
Yes.
Steven?
Yes.
Jeff?
I'm a no.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Cheryl, for coming in and talking to us. And Carol, thank you. So, sorry, it's not more, but here we are.
I think so.
All right. We have next old business. Tyler. Oh,
Question on fence view.
I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
I'm
Jump ahead and do that.
Fence viewer question?
Yeah.
Thank you, Neil.
Just
Wait, I didn't hear a fence what?
fence viewer.
Okay.
473.
I have copies of RSA.
Sure, okay. Yeah, Jeff, do you mind muting yourself?
Or stop cooking or whatever you're doing on the other.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I thought I was muted.
Thank you.
We're getting some feedback from your
Thank you.
end.
That's better. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, so,
Okay. Now
what's happening?
Now I understand what you're, I was like, I don't fence viewer. Okay. All right.
so I don't know what this is about.
Go, why don't you explain?
Yes.
If you wanted to explain what municipal association building.
So for the record, my name is Mary Goddard and I live on Pennycliff Road. So on our property along the boundary, there's a fence. And it's a pretty old fence at this point, this old barbed wire fence that's falling apart. And we recently got farm animals, and those farm animals will sometimes go over to our neighbor's property, which has recently started being developed. And so in knowing that, I was like, okay, well, maybe we should try to repair this fence. Maybe we should try to fix up this fence, prevent our animals from going onto their property. And I started Googling New Hampshire fence laws, and I came, I'm sorry, I thought some. I came across this RSA about division fences and their maintenance. And so what we have is a division fence because it goes along the property. And the RSA in summary says that, as I understand it, is that the first one, the owners of adjoining lands under improvement shall build and repair the partition fence between them in equal shares. And so I thought, oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of that before. And I started to try to look into more about the division fence laws in New Hampshire. And if you go down to 473, 4, it brings fence viewers. And Neil can talk a little bit better than I can about the history of fence viewers. But essentially, a fence viewer is somebody who comes out, looks at the fence, and says, "Who needs to pay for the fence?" Usually my understanding is that it would be if the land, it's a little confusing, but if like our property is developed, the property next door was not being developed, then we would be responsible for paying for fixing of the fence. But then we could send the bill to the people next door if they ever started developing their land. They've recently started making improvements on it. And so my understanding is that we're supposed to share the costs. But in order to make that determination, we need a fence viewer to come out, look at the fence, say, yes, the fence needs to be repaired, and make a judgment that both people need to pay equally to repair the fence. So I first began by reaching out to, I forget which state office it is, the one that would, I forget which one, I can't remember what I said it was, planning or whatever. And they said, what RSA are you talking about? I've literally never heard of this in my life before. And I said, oh, that's interesting.
That's why I was chuckling earlier, not about what you're saying, just how obscure this is.
Yes. And they said you should reach out to your town. So I got in touch with Neil and I said, I'd like to have a fence viewer. And Neil joked that I was probably the only person to ever email asking about a fence viewer. But as Neil explained it, he said that fence viewers were positions generally appointed by the select board. And so I would like a fence viewer to come out and look at our fence. As a little point of pride, New Hampshire is one of the few states that does have an office of the fence viewer. I think the other ones are like Vermont, Maine, and Wyoming or something. And so it also at this point has turned into a bit of a state pride and an only New Hampshire thing. So in addition to the very practical and real reason of wanting to figure out how to divide the cost of fixing up this fence, I would also like to request a fence viewer just, as a way of honoring this office that apparently has not been used in many years.
Fence viewer shall be paid $2 a day.
Yes.
Oh, my word. There's money in this. Fence. Oh, how many days of fence viewing?
So the municipal association, first let me know they had never had in their records a question on fence.
That's amazing.
It is an optional office. It seems that some towns elected them, some towns appointed them. But it is not one of the required offices of a town. It is one of the optional ones.
And so, sorry if I missed this earlier. Have you talked to the
We and make that official judgment, because it also has to do with who will pay to maintain the fence over the years. And then that goes into town record and becomes an official document. And so as far as looking forward, looking ahead, I would like it to be in record, who will be maintaining it. And those records transfer, even if the ownership of the property changes as well.
And what's your position on maintenance?
On maintenance, I would like to share maintenance of the fence. Is that what you mean as far as?
Yeah, I'm just.
Yeah, no, I think that in the case of a division fence, particularly with the way that the properties are laid out with where the homes are positioned, both of us will be seeing the fence. I think that both of us should have equal responsibility in maintaining it and keeping it up and making sure it stays nice.
So then do they get to have input on what the fence is and what kind of fence?
So that is, my understanding is that is something that can be discussed. It really, my understanding based on the RSA is that it really depends on the level of participation and cooperation from both parties.
Mm-hmm.
Where if one party does not engage, then the fence viewer is the one to make those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct that the current fence is a barbed wire fence?
Correct. Yes, which, I would prefer something a little nicer than a barbed wire fence.
And you guys need this to keep your animals on your property?
Well, it's not only just to keep her property safe from our animals and our animals on our property, but it's also, just in the same way that you would want to have a fence between your backyard and your neighbor's backyard for privacy purposes, it's also for that.
Neil, my recollection is that if we wanted to create this office, that would have to go to town meeting.
I could not find statutes here, anything else.
I mean, like.
I think it did at one point,
Yeah.
but I have not.
We used to list them in the town report.
Yeah.
Wow.
It used to be something, I've been at town meetings, and this is completely an aside, where it's a quote unquote honor bestowed on the most recent person to move to town.
Whoa, that's amazing.
Yes,
Honor?
yes, nominated and as the fence viewer.
Oh, wow.
So I'm just wondering,
Someone new that was listed.
No one knew it was to town.
Nobody knew.
I'm just wondering if it existed at one point and then we just let it fizzle out, does that mean it no longer can be filled? Like.
Or does the position?
Well, I mean,
Right.
my other concern is that, you know, I feel like this is really a private dispute
Mhm.
between two property owners, and I'm a little concerned about the slippery slope that would be set up if we create an office and then it's staffed and then enforce whatever factual findings are made. Because really, I think that this is something that should be negotiated between two private parties, and the town shouldn't be involved.
Yeah, I wasn't endorsing the concept. I was just trying to clarify if we actually have the authority to do this if we want to without town meeting. Because yes, I agree with you, Stephen. It does seem like possibly a road we don't necessarily want to go down if we don't have to. Especially because I could imagine the other property owner thinking, well, I don't really care if there's a fence because it's not my farm animals. And that's sort of like your issue. And certainly if they're expected to pay for a significant part of it, I think then you get into like, who's the decision maker on aesthetics and like, you know, functionality and other, I mean, I don't know if you have thoughts, Ina, since you have animals too.
If I may, I would normally agree with that if not for the fact that we already have a division fence in place. There's already a fence there. And that's the barbed wire fence. I would
Right.
agree that it would be different if we were putting in a brand new fence, but the fence already is there and she knew the fence was there when we purchased it. You know, and at the end of the day, it is a law that I have the right to a fence viewer. And so whether that's through the town or whether I have to go up to the state offices, but what I can tell you is the state offices punted it back down to the town.
Well, so it says, if you don't agree, or if a division has not been established.
Which the division has been established.
Right.
Already.
Okay. So it has been established.
Mhm.
So that takes you out of this section.
The division by fence viewers.
Yeah. If it said if the parties do not agree and a division has been established, you'd be correct on that, but I mean,
So you're on 473-4.
yeah. So it's if you don't agree or a division has not been established.
Right, so they're talking about two different types of divisions. So they talk about the division fence and then the division of how to pay for it and who will maintain it. So in this case, my understanding is that they're talking about the division of who's going to pay for the fence.
Okay.
So I think, I mean, there's two terms in here. There's partition fence. And then there's the division of the fence. So I know the title says division fences, but I'm
Confusing.
not sure that it means quite. Read this through a little bit more.
Did you research if your property records or the other individual's property records says anything about a fence?
You know, I have not done that. Then see where we could find. Because that's where.
73.3, the phrase usage and acquiescence, such division may be established by usage and acquiescence.
I would think it means both parties are aware of the fence. Is that how you? read
I
it?
think my guess would be that it's adverse possession.
Okay,
is what that is intended to mean.
okay.
But doesn't acquiescence suggest it
Giving,
wouldn't be hostile?
giving, right?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I don't think that, we don't know if this office ever existed in town. Even if it did, I would not be in favor of us
Meeting.
doing this, because I really think this is a private dispute for the parties to work out. And I don't want other people coming in to our offices asking for us to figure out disputes between them and their neighbors having to do with fences.
Right, and I think Mary's point is that this is her right and under statute, which is, I think, the big question. But I mean, so the division may be established by, because I agree with you, Stephen, established by usage and acquiescence, which would be use without protest.
Mhm.
So that's how you establish the division. So whether you're talking in 473-4 about division from like a financial perspective or the actual fence itself, I still think you're outside of this. Well, I guess it's unclear because I guess we don't know if they acquiesced.
Well, doesn't the 20 years sort of mean if it's been there 20 years that in effect it's been
I think
Yeah.
that's the agreement.
That like could not be more poorly. And those under whom they claim,
And just so everyone's aware, there is no RSA that ever talks about fence viewers ever again, nor talks about how they come to be. It almost feels as though they got rid of that part and then they forgot to get rid of this part,
Yeah.
but there it is.
Hmm.
I mean, I have to say, it does seem like this was written at a time when many people probably had things like farm animals and you would need to like agree on the type of fencing you use. This does seem like slightly out of, if we can guess what the intent was, however many years ago. It does seem like it would be a strange thing to do in modern times, to have actual fence viewers who make record of this. And then, especially if you have, I mean, I guess I would understand if you'd spoken, I know you can't get in touch with them, but if you had like some sort of dispute with someone and you wanted to put up a fence and they didn't want it or something, and then something like this might come into play. But in a situation where you don't even know the other property owner, to have us say, okay, we're going to decide this and we're going to charge you 50% or whatever, just seems like a very odd.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first, I agree. I think the first thing is you go to your neighbor and, I mean, this says the owners of adjoining lands under improvement shall build and repair the partition fence between them in equal shares. If you can go to your neighbor and equally share the building and repair of a partition fence, you're done.
So, yes, I would agree. I'm going to go back to say that this is in the law and I do have the right to one. The other issue,
If there's a disagreement about sharing the cost.
it does not have to be just because of a disagreement. You can do it upon an application of either party.
Does it say in here we have to accept the application?
No.
Seems like we would have to.
No, it's any division of such fence made by the parties in the independent.
Come back another.
Upon a
Where are you
division.
reading?
Sorry, I'm in section 4,
Okay.
4734. If the parties do not agree upon a division, which there has been no attempt at an agreement, or a division which has not been established by a usage and acquiescence. So I think the division is talking about the division of the cost to build and repair the fence. It's not talking about the partition fence. It's talking about a division of the cost.
Yes.
So the division has not been established by usage and acquiescence. I mean, it sounds like nobody is currently maintaining this fence. Is that correct?
So that is correct. The sort of complicating factor, and this is part of the reason why we've been trying to get hold of her, is that the way that the fence goes across the properties, it's not entirely clear. It makes it difficult to determine what the property lines are. And I understand that the property lines, in modern times are determined by surveyors and all of that, and all of those things get reported. However, in terms of maintaining this fence, it makes things a little bit more complicated. Because the fence was intended to be the division between the two properties. And there has been some tearing down of trees that are on our side of the fence. And so we really would like to have somebody come out and make this determination on this fence for a variety of reasons. We are happy to contact her and try to come up with an agreement. If an agreement is not reached, will the select board then appoint a fence board?
I don't know if we can promise that, but you can certainly come back and we can talk about it again.
You said you've had a hard time getting in touch with her?
Correct.
Yeah, what, I don't know if you've tried, tax records or anything.
So she just bought the property.
Yeah,
And so the only thing that we have is a mailing address, and I believe it's in New York State.
okay. I don't know if you guys have tried, leaving stuff with the people working there.
Nobody has been to the property for the past month and a half.
So they've just been clearing trees as of yet?
Yes, so they cleared trees for a week, and then nobody's been back since.
And did this come to your attention because you guys question if the property boundaries are correct?
So it initially came up before we questioned if the property boundaries were correct.
Okay, but that's part of the concern.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because one of the things that the fence viewers also make a determination on, that's probably going to be the easiest way to describe the additional struggle. So where the property line goes, this is the top view of the property line, right? It comes at about a 90-degree angle. However, what happens is there's a stream and a sort of a valley that goes right along where that 90-degree line is. So this is obviously not a good picture, but so that line right there, it's coming down into this stream. And the fence currently goes across the top. So it doesn't come down as such. And one of the things that the fence viewers can make a determination on is whether that upward incline is considered a sufficient fence or not. Because what they can make a determination on is if it's unrealistic or too costly to build a fence that goes down like that. And so the problem is that right now there's the fence that goes across the top there, but I believe the property line, and I would have to look in the records and have a surveyor come out and double check it. It potentially, it's just like this weird gulch thing that happens, but the fence that's been serving as the division fence and the property line fence goes across the top. But the ground goes down.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And so it's this area in particular that it's confusing. And, and so that's sort of a compounding factor. And it's the sort of thing that, again, I'm happy to reach out to see if we can come to an agreement. I don't know if that's a spot we will be able to come to an agreement
I think, Stephen, what you were saying about, is this a slippery slope in terms of bringing us into being involved in many different property disputes? I'm just looking at 47321 penalty. And it's a penalty on a fence viewer. So I would wonder if anybody reading this would be willing to be a fence viewer at $2 a day. And what was interesting is this was effective 1973, whereas everything else that I've seen was in
Way
the
earlier.
1800s.
Yeah.
So, it's totally confusing to me, this statute.
But it does, and yes, I agree, it is confusing and poorly drafted, which is often the case, unfortunately. But it does seem clear that at least, taking the whole thing at face value, it seems like, as Anna said, you do have to try as owners of the adjoining land to come to some sort of agreement. And then if you can't, we'd have to revisit the question of whether we're obligated to appoint a fence viewer. But it doesn't seem like this is something we have to do right off the bat. And I understand like the practical issues of trying to get in touch with this person, but it does seem like for both reasons of trying to follow the statute and what Stephen kind of flagged, which is a sort of practical issue for the town, it seems like better if you could figure private matter.
You can sign an agreement and that can go into record.
But, I mean, you can record that between the two of you.
Right.
And the town
Regardless.
doesn't need to be involved in that.
Right.
And then if you need to enforce it, you have the agreement to enforce in court.
I guess what I'm a little, I understand what you guys are saying. I guess I'm just a little bit, I would like some clarification on, even though it says in 473(2) that it's any division made by the parties and recorded in town records shall be binding, why there's this hesitancy to submit it to the town if it says right there that it can be recorded in town records.
Because I think recording an agreement between two people with us for our records is a different situation from us having to appoint someone who we pay, who's responsible for like making the decisions about.
Right, but what I'm saying is that, so because the 473(2) talks about putting it in town records even before it talks about the fence viewers.
Well, what does that even mean though? Recording it in town records?
You file it with the town clerk.
Right, which again, you can absolutely do that if you have a private agreement between two parties.
It'd be more effective to do it in the registry, so it's actually found.
Yeah.
When needed.
Title search.
Down the
Yeah.
road.
And back in the 1800s, though, it would have been the town clerk, in all likelihood, not the county.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So sounds like if you can try to work this out and get in touch with someone, that would be the best route forward. And I think if you have problems, then certainly come back and see us. But unless anyone else disagrees, I think that's probably the best we can do right now.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And thanks for enlightening us.
I
Yes,
know, thank you for bringing up this.
thank you for
Your
your research.
RSA. Very strange.
Legislative session, there's a bill to take this out. I know you're calling.
Yes, yes. So confused.
Oh, Mel.
Thanks for coming in. Okay, so, why don't we do, since we have one person from the public with us and I think maybe one person on the phone, public comment right now. So if Norm has any comments, then he can go home if he wants to.
Norm
Unless
doesn't like to
there's
go home.
something on the else that they wanted to talk.
Are you here for anything else, Norm, or are you just?
I was gonna comment on public appointment, that's possible.
Yeah, you
Oh,
can,
sure.
we'll move public comment right now.
Anything.
Norm Google 121 Amesbury Road. So sorry, I've not been here in a while, I'm a little busy. So I looked at your board packet and I saw the thing with Ms. Jones. And it really kind of, I read it and I didn't actually talk to her because I actually wanted to come here and actually listen to it with you guys, and be able to listen to feedback and stuff. And, the first thing I thought about when I actually listened here tonight is how often do you have a taxpayer that actually comes here on a regular basis and asks for forgiveness? I mean, I don't know. I'm not in your situation and stuff like that. You talked about how there's people who owe this town a lot of money, and it's hard for you to collect that. I understand you mentioned that in our budget committee. And I look at Ms. Jones as someone who had such a huge impact on me and my family when I moved here to Hopkinton. Christina and I, we struggled to make ends meet for a long time in this town. We moved here, and she watched all our kids and was able to give us an affordable opportunity to maintain the state of Hopkinton. And her integrity, I thought, was questioned tonight, and I'm not at all arguing with you guys. I respect you guys more than you know, because you guys are fantastic people. And I just feel that, there is misunderstandings. There's things that goes on in people's lives that maybe they're not going to share in public. That maybe there's a reason why things don't get paid. And I think sometimes we have to remember that there's certain things that we just don't say in public sometimes that sometimes can hit home. And, I'm sharing a little bit of a personal experience with Miss Sherry that she has done so much for this town. So much for my wife and I trusted her with my children for many years here. And, there's a part of her life where she's moving on, she's moving out of Hopkinton, which I fully support because she wants to move on with her life and her family. I understand there's checks and balances when it comes to making sure, things were signed, whether or not someone's telling the truth and all that. And that's your decision solely to make. But I can tell you, as someone who has just known her and just really have just seen how much she's done for so many parents in this town, to sit here and ask you guys, to help her out. I would really ask the board to consider some higher amount. I know it's not going to be unanimous, but I'd really ask you guys to consider that. As someone in this town who loves the community so much, I wouldn't have come here tonight to you guys if I didn't believe in somebody. And I really am telling you that it's really important that we really understand that not everything is on the table. Sometimes it's hard, but I really ask you guys to consider and come to maybe an amount that maybe is worth discussion. Thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Norm. I appreciate that. Appreciate you coming in and talking to us. There's one other person on the phone. I don't know if they want to make a public comment. They can raise their hand. Otherwise,
Raise their hand at the bottom, hit raise hand.
otherwise we'll close public comment. All right. So that brings us back to old business, which is Tyler Bridge.
Sure, you have the information and the three options offered by the engineer. And this was the case where one joint really needs to get done. And the cost differential of closing the bridge versus not closing the bridge is there.
Can you put that up on the screen? We don't have our little computer.
We don't have our little Easter notebooks.
The difference is about 150,000.
That's right.
And so and I confess, I looked at it, but I thought that I'd have it in front of me. So I'm sorry, I don't have it in my memory exactly, but the difference was is the difference really that in one of so I know there's 3 cases, but the second 2, the middle one, I think was more expensive, less expensive, but the bridge is closed for 2 months.
Yeah.
And then the third option is more expensive, but we can have traffic on it still. Is that right?
Right,
Okay,
Right.
right.
Or to say it, the closure is 129,000 more or less, depending on if it's closed or not under one option, 150,000 under the other option.
And wasn't the recommendation from the engineers and DPW to at least do one of the joints
Yes.
as soon as possible?
Given that plate is over that one joint, to have it done before winter is right.
Okay. So,
And in the bond, we have at least enough proceeds to cover that one.
Yes, because we were expecting this to be, what, 650 for the whole thing.
I mean, it kind of sounds like the choice is either one joint with full closure versus one joint with some traffic access.
and it looks like they're the same amount of time-ish.
Yeah,
Like, it's not like one is way faster than the other.
yeah.
Actually, closing will be much faster.
Oh, okay.
But were you saying between the two?
I don't think we have a time frame for how long it will take if it's open. But-
Okay.
But just because of the nature of that.
I would think that, yeah. I was confused by the duration and schedule says 8 to 10 and then 8. So I thought that meant they were the,
Those are just the two different contractors.
But with closure, it's at least 8 weeks.
It would be,
Oh,
right.
those are both, no, but isn't one of those closing and one is not closing?
No, those
Oh,
are the two different contractors that
for,
got bids from.
and they both are closing.
So Neil, to be clear,
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Summary.
Okay, that's what I was trying to distinguish was option 2 and 3. And then I got, because it's the two contractors, okay.
does Dan or our engineer have a recommendation on whether Daniels or E.D. Sweat is?
I think they would negotiate that and timing. The bids are fairly close, the quotes are fairly close. I think a lot would depend on. Both are very
With roughly $150,000 of cost swing, I would go with the closure. The full
And it's
closure.
faster, and we don't even have a timeline for option 3.
That's what I was gonna ask. Do I miss somewhere how long it takes if we do the phased traffic approach? We don't know.
No.
We don't have that. But
Yeah.
it would be longer, certainly.
Right.
So already, yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Jen. I think that's probably the best option.
What if the road is closed for 2 months? What are the other ways to get to the transfer station?
Going down Dustin Road.
Which is that's.
You're going
Do you need to get there? Do you go up to the
Davisville.
schoolhouse?
Mhm.
Yeah, up to Davisville and get there from there. And then if you come from the Concord side, is there a way to get up from
Yeah,
that side?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
real long.
Okay, that's what I
Much,
mean,
much longer.
I don't, that's what I'm struggling with, I guess, is if we close, that's the primary means by which people get to the transfer station.
Mhm.
And, if we can do that, I'm not saying that's a bad idea, but
But it's
there's gonna be some
something to
people that are upset by
Mhm.
having to go around.
From say the middle of Kentuco, I would think the detour might add 2-3 miles to it. Certainly from the middle of Hopkinton Village, it's going to be long.
Right.
But
What
at 8 weeks, if you're going to the transfer station, for those individuals who actually go to the transfer station, how often do they go? If they go weekly, that's 8 times they have
8
to make a
times.
detour
Right,
versus $150,000.
yeah.
What about like fire and safety issues if it's fully closed? Is that,
They will set up joy type coverage, but that
Oh.
is,
For consideration.
that's one thing. If you have it staggered open, they could always make it so they could get through the school.
oh, okay. Huh.
Yeah. You really don't want to come from the east.
No,
That's you're right.
The Payson bike ride has a 30-mile loop that, because going into Concord.
For that reason, yeah, yeah.
It's flat. Well, I'll move that we go with option 2.
Sorry, just to clarify in my last question, like, does Chief Pecora are there concerns from the fire and safety perspective, or is it something they can deal with? Like, is it?
I think they'll deal with it.
Okay.
well, let me just say, so I just looked up Google Maps directions. So from Colonial Village Supermarket to the transfer station using the bridge is 9 minutes and 4 miles.
4 miles.
And going out,
To Davisville?
going up 103, going to Davisville, going on Dustin Road, 11 minutes and 5.6 miles. So 2 minutes from downtown Contoocook is the difference in time.
Yeah.
So probably from a public safety perspective, it's probably also not that
Okay.
much.
Mhm.
I don't know. Hopefully not. Hopefully I will never eat those words.
Okay, so sorry, Ken made that motion for option 2.
I'll second your motion, Ken.
Okay. Anna,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Jeff, are you still with us?
Yes,
Sorry.
and I'm a yes.
I didn't know if you had.
I'm sorry, were you talking to me? The phone blacked out for about the last minute. As soon as I voted yes, it shut off. And it's off again.
Is doing. Saying, I think, I was happy with, the transfer station income had actually gone up dramatically. Lots of times with the recycling, it's held until there's a full load to go. So this time of year, we do see that, but that was good news. And I'm happy to answer Ken's question.
Sure. Timber tax, again, is that you think by the end of the year we'll catch up there?
Probably, maybe not. It might come in after. The good thing that always seems to happen is between timber tax and land use tax, they seem to cover. And it looks like this year, based on the consent agenda, the land use tax, change tax will be substantially over budget. So I think the two of those will balance each other out.
And I know we've talked about this before, between room and meals tax and highway block grant, I'm expecting that we're going to receive at least 100,000 more from the state than we budgeted for.
Highway block grant, we know the exact amount we're receiving, and that's noted here. And it's a few $1,000s less than last year, but 33,000 more than we budgeted.
Right.
But room and meals is should be, it's about 100,000 over at least what we budgeted, because that will be more than we received last year, and we had lowered that expectation.
And under interest, the bank investment, we gotten our first segment of the American Rescue Plan dollars yet?
We received the money, yes.
And-
Jumping ahead to my report, we have
Okay.
received the first 301,000 came in last week.
Would we be getting interest, earning interest from that would be reflected in this line?
It should be.
So that might help a little.
Yeah, although the interest rate is not very high. Just for the.
And do you think that you're at the bottom of the overview of expense that you still have to look very carefully at expenditures?
I think we need to watch them, but I'm feeling better about that.
Okay,
With the return of surplus, if we take that as a premium holiday, we also, but as of tomorrow, are down 3 full-time positions that we're not paying health insurance for, as well as retirement. So
as well as salary.
those lines will come in, as well as salary. Those lines will come in less.
Okay. Well,
Salary less so because 2 of them are police and fire, and they have to, somebody has to work. So,
Right.
but
thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thanks, Neil. Next up is Landry Easement.
that, I think, came out of your visit to the cabin that I wasn't at.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys remember, but when we went to the Kimball Cabins, we talked about access to all those, to the trails that are on Kimball Lake. And apparently they go over private property and there's just kind of a verbal agreement to let the town do that. And so they asked about getting an easement, about the town getting an official easement so that that's in the record, because there's a concern that that particular property owner may be selling.
I don't know if it had to do with that.
No, regardless, but I mean, if they did sell and somebody else bought it who wasn't as.
Oh, just
inclined-
hypothetically.
Yeah.
If
to
they were to
give-
sell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Neil, could you pull up the map that was in our package?
Sure.
Because I was a little, I understand what you're saying, Stephen. The map though confused me.
There's that little
There's a little.
70
blip,
by
but I-
70 by 70
Yeah.
chunk that goes across the trail. And
yeah, there it is.
a little weird square. How about we just ask him to donate that to the town?
That would be another way to fix it. Yeah.
Maybe
That would be clear.
a little better.
If they're willing.
I'm trying to remember why that was there. It
And
had to do with the well.
I was gonna say, there's that
Oh,
weird
that's right.
bunker that Lee talked about.
I think you're right. I think that's what they said when we were there, is that there's a well there
Yeah,
that they get their water from.
And that, I believe that same well provided water to the cabins, so.
yeah, but so that,
I know we've covered it and made it safe over the last.
but that's the Landry's well?
Maybe it used to
That's what
be,
they said.
because we have a weird cutout in our property too, of like an old well. It's not used anymore.
Interesting, I wonder.
So
Or maybe it's current.
it's that area somewhere where the trail goes through.
Yeah. Huh. All right, so maybe the only way is an easement then.
Or they could donate it to us and we could give them an easement.
Yeah,
I don't remember why they didn't just go around it.
with the trail, yeah.
Yeah.
If there was a reason. Was Lee Wilder the one?
Yeah.
He was there.
I can follow up with Lee, because he'll know.
I'm wondering if we were to ask for the property, is there some liability we'd be taking on?
With the well.
Yeah,
Mm.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point.
so maybe what Neil's saying about a path around it might make sense.
Right, I think we had some liability because that was the well for the cabins. We took some of that, and that's why we did all the covers and all of that, so. But let me check with him on the history.
Okay.
Okay, so perhaps more to come on that.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I think we would feel comfortable reaching out to the property owner to
Yeah.
see what they're inclined to talk about.
Yeah. Which I'm happy to do, I know, Tim.
Oh,
that's right.
good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Anna.
But it's just, talk to Lee and then let me know if
Yeah.
you want to talk to
Sounds good.
Mr. Landry.
Okay, great. Next up is town meeting date.
So I think you saw the email we received from the school district that they would like to have a school meeting on the 19th of March, which would put town meeting on the 12th. That's usually discussed at the
Joint meeting.
joint meeting. You know, it looked like they wanted.
Nail that down.
When is our joint meeting, by the way? Have we?
We haven't set that date yet. It's usually September.
Oh,
Okay.
They wanted to get school over first.
Fair.
it's a priority. It's a good priority to have.
So, okay.
Is there any reason you see, Neil, why we should not have town meeting on the 12th?
No, I don't. Often the school goes before us. We would be on the 12th and they would go before, but that's the end of vacation. So sometimes we both move back and they go the 12th and we go the 19th, but I don't think it makes, the only disadvantage have the Tuesday election and town meeting on Saturday. Just to get everything totally done, but we've done that before.
Then it's done.
Did we have,
He said, then it's done.
Yeah, and then it's done. It'll be nice to have it done in March this
Yeah.
I was gonna say, did we discuss briefly the idea of separating the school and the town meeting by a week so that there wasn't so much fatigue on the part of the residents to
year.
Come
There's
to
different-
both?
or different nights or different times or, but I don't think any.
Yeah, I think we talked about it, but isn't there, I mean, there's something under state law that we have to have it within a.
They have to hold their meeting by the end of March in order to do teacher contracts.
Mhm.
And then there's something different about us, but we
Right.
tend to like to go before them. We don't necessarily have to, right? Or
No, they usually go before us
yeah.
because they can go before the Tuesday election and we cannot.
Oh,
So
Oh,
often
oh.
they'll go, what this year would be the 5th, which is Saturday, the following Tuesday will be the election, and then we go the Saturday.
Is it possible to go before the second Tuesday? For us?
Before.
I could be wrong, but I think
Can we
that's,
do it
I
as
think
long
that
as
might
you-
be an option.
It would change all your dates.
Mhm.
Than that, I don't know if.
our town meeting before
The election.
the 8th.
I don't know.
I think we might be able to, but I mean, I
Because if we could, then. Oh, wait, but,
That is, if it were the week before, if it were just before the election, that is school vacation, the end of school vacation.
oh,
That's
so
what I was pulling
Why
up.
the school didn't want to go the
do the
5th.
5th,
so
I
it's
see,
probably-
okay.
yeah. So we don't want to
So,
do that. People
School
would be.
vacation week's really like the first week of
Of
March.
March, it is.
Yeah, okay, so the 5th is not great, got that. Could they go on the 26th?
When we go the 12th, and they go the 26th.
Yeah,
I almost think the statute says they have to go by the 25th.
oh,
Oh, man.
geez, okay.
Okay.
Well, okay,
And it doesn't have to be set now. I just wanted to let you know that that's what we used to.
okay.
It's sort of a little off topic, but our new superintendent came to the
Oh, the voting.
committee meeting, and he indicated that he would like to have their budget completed by October, which is a totally different time frame than before.
Mhm.
And before, there was, budget committee was always really rushed at the end, and, whether that would ever have an impact on March meetings, hopefully not, but at least his objective right now is to get things done a lot sooner than they have in the past.
If they want to do that on a regular basis, we'd be happy to move back and go to the budget committee in January.
Yeah,
Gives
I'll
us a lot more information.
offer that at our next meeting. If that,
I think you're right about March 25th, by the way.
The
for the
school
schools.
district, somebody had said that. And I think under COVID, that was all waived, which is why it could be moved up.
Okay. So it seems like for now, we're penciled in for that week before.
12th.
Yeah. Okay, so ready to move on to our last new business? All right, one event permit request.
Sure, so that is the chamber's application. And I sent out what Anna had sent. Agreement, I guess the insurance company requires an agreement.
The vendor's insurance company. Right?
Vendor's
Correct.
insurance
The-
company.
The vendor's insurance company who the town will be the additionally insured with. So they requested an agreement between the town and the chamber so that neither of us hold the other liable in case of an occurrence.
You have a certificate of liability from them that says it is hereby agreed and understood that the Union Chamber of Commerce and the town of Hopkinton are included as additional insured in general liability for ongoing operations when required by written contract. So that's what the insurance company is giving the certificate.
Yep. So in order for the insurance to be effective, this agreement has to be signed. And I was told, so this is based on an agreement that the town of Exeter has used. So this is not invented from nothing. This has been used before.
Yeah. And it didn't seem to conflict with our policy or our requirements. We'll check the insurance requirements to make sure that those numbers match.
does this have to get passed through Primex?
I think it ought to. I mean, I looked at it real briefly. And there's a couple little typos that are easy to clean up. I mean, the big things that jumped out at me were that it seemed like user and vendor would be nice if that was defined. Because the indemnification and hold harmless talks about the user, but in a lot of other places it talks about the vendor.
Got it.
Pretty sure they're two different things.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and then the last paragraph 15 about attorney fees.
It's,
Well, no,
that one.
it only talks about to the extent the town is the prevailing party. But I think the way it's written, it's intended to be whoever wins,
Either.
just the town.
Okay.
Then we should.
So you just-
So, yeah, I know.
You want to just leave it? Leave it.
Well, yeah, I couldn't help but bring it up because it just doesn't make sense, but yeah. But I do think Primex should take a look just to make sure that there's not some,
And they get back pretty quick.
yeah, they're
We
good
expect to
about,
hear
yeah.
from them in the morning.
Great.
And Anna, you're hoping that, subject to Primex approval, we approve this tonight?
That is my hope, so that the license can be granted and in place before this Thursday evening. Yeah.
And at the end of our tour of the fire station, Jeff raised a very reasonable question. You know, if it wasn't you, it wasn't the chamber, but it was some independent resident in town seeking this, would we be moving as quickly as we look like we're doing now? You know, are you getting, or the chamber getting preferential treatment, let me say? Because this is the first time, I don't know if we're setting ourselves up for something or not.
I don't know if it's preferential, because I just feel like these are little speed bumps we've hit because it's the first.
Because it's the first time.
First entity to go through this process.
Which is fair. I'm just throwing out a question that Jeff legitimately raised.
Yeah, no, it was a good question. And
I think if it was someone else and it was like about events that like many people in town go to, and in Kentucky, I think we'd be moving along as quickly as we could. Like, I don't think, this is just like a process issue. It's not like we're bending the rules or anything for this. So I don't see it as a preferential treatment situation.
And this one too, this agreement between the town and the chamber is arising only because the chamber has asked to be additionally insured on the vendor's insurance. So this one kind of came up at the last minute. I think without this, everything else is in place. So, and what,
Jeff, I was raising your question, but maybe you'd want to expand upon it, or are you satisfied?
There, am I on? Can you hear me now?
yeah, we got Jeff.
Awesome. No, the question I raised was, we have a process, or we had a process of things that need to be accomplished before we can approve a license or a permit. And I just said we shouldn't be fast tracking anything, especially the first request, because it's going to set a precedent that we don't want to have to meet every single time. If everything's in, great. If everything isn't in, I don't think we should prove it.
And what I'm hearing is everything's in, subject to final sign off by Primex.
Well, I guess my question about user versus vendor, I think we could use some clarity on. And I don't know, Anna, if you're able to. But this is a contract between the town and the chamber. And at the bottom of page 1, it says name vendors. I don't know if Concord Craft and the cider company, I don't know if it's intended for them to be the user.
Right, because then it switches.
And the reason this question is because in 8, indemnification paragraph,
Yeah.
it's the user that's indemnifying and holding harmless the town. And so I just want to make sure before we green light this, that we understand what entity are we,
Is the user.
who is giving us that protection.
So is user the consumer of beverages?
I don't know, because I don't think that the chamber can sign an agreement on behalf of anybody that shows up and buys a beer. So I think it's either Concord Craft and Cider Company, or it's the chamber.
Okay.
Yeah, and like cleanup user would be, I assume, the vendors, or
I think it's the chamber.
I think it's the chamber. I think it's supposed to be the chamber.
Okay.
And is that in there because it was in Exeter's? Because our policy on there covers. those.
Yeah, right, yeah, I think it's in there because it was
Just
from-
because it was-
from the previous.
Yeah, I think user is supposed to be the
The
chamber,
chamber, okay.
or at least that's how I read it. Because that would make sense, because they're the
Right.
one signing.
I'm holding the event.
Yeah, and they're the one applying for approval.
the land,
right,
using the town's land. Okay, that makes sense to me.
yeah. So if that's a correct interpretation, then I'm fine doing this, but if it's
Right.
not, then
And maybe
What
we
would
could
you
put
like?
user right here in parentheses in the
And-
first.
Yeah,
Yeah, right in
Yeah.
the chamber. Second.
great. I mean, I have, well, this is in Word form, right? You could change it and just add that.
Who needs to like confirm that that's a correct reading?
The person who drafted it.
Okay. And can they do that quickly? Because then-
Leanne is on the phone, looks like she's good.
Oh, well, that's helpful. Hi, Leanne. You have to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Lee.
Hi. While I'm not a lawyer, this is the way that after, as Anna can attest to, much discussion between insurance agents and lawyers and just the board in general. We think we've finally jumped through, not jumped through all the hoops, but we finally done it the way that the one-day certificate was intended to be used. So I just wanted to say that I do believe that we've fulfilled all the requirements as the town would like and as the state intends the one-day license to be used.
Okay.
So even though we apply for the one-day license, the people who are serving the alcohol are the ones who supply the insurance and make both the town, we've asked them to make both the town and the chamber as riders on the policy. Am I answering the question that you actually are asking?
The question is more about the agreement that the insurance agent requested between the town and the chamber. And just,
It's more of, we're supposed to have a contract to make everything
legal.
legal, yeah, applicable.
Yeah.
And when we asked the lawyer to make us a contract, this is the same contract that Exeter uses for all of their events that serve alcohol with the town. So that's why we were feeling confident that this was correctly done.
Yeah, and it probably, I mean, it likely is, but it would be helpful if they could clarify defined terms rather than just throwing in a capital user.
I'm pretty confident that user is the chamber. Just reading this agreement, there's some instances where that's the only way you can read it, that it makes sense.
But would it be possible to just have that clarified in the?
I'm sure we could have, I actually believe that the lawyer whose name escapes me, I'm sorry, Darren, I don't know his last name, Brown. Darren Brown left that in Word. So you could put in last minute changes.
Yeah,
So if
it
you,
is.
okay, if you, so if we would like, we could probably make the user equal chamber, or the chamber, the user being the Chamber of Commerce from here on in. Don't they usually do that at the beginning of contracts?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were saying.
Okay. And then we can confirm that with Darren Brown in the morning. I don't have his number, but I could try to have Meredith call him if you'd like. Do you have other business?
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
Is this only for one concert or is this for the entire series?
This is for the entire series.
Okay.
Oh, I have Darren's.
So so the provider's going to change every concert, correct?
Nope.
No, we're having the concert, we're having Concord Craft and provide
Cider.
servers, and Kentucky Cider provide servers.
Okay, I was under the impression that we were using a different beer vendor every concert.
I think what we're going to do is we're going to have the listed servers serve the beer.
Concord Craft is going to serve every week.
Right.
That was just recently decided so that we could proceed, basically.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. All right, so do we think we can just put this change in and?
Yeah,
verify?
Leanne, are you okay with altering this to define the chamber as user? And then we'll,
Yes, I am.
great,
But I will confirm with Darren in the morning now,
okay.
just to make sure it's okay.
I mean, I think that.
If it's not okay, then we will you could make some kind of consideration that.
If it's not
It won't.
okay, then I think we've got a bigger issue with understanding the underlying terms and
Okay.
hopefully it's a simple addition.
All right. I'm gonna mute you and see if I can get a hold of Darren.
Okay.
Thanks,
Okay.
Lee. All
You're
right.
welcome.
I was gonna say that, I'm comfortable, if this is the last piece that they need, I'm comfortable giving them our approval conditioned on Primex blessing this agreement and them confirming that the chamber is synonymous with user.
Mhm.
I'll second if that's a motion.
Yeah, that's a motion.
Okay,
Well, I feel like I should abstain because
Okay.
I am very close to all of this, so I
Fair.
will abstain. but
okay, so,
Obviously, I'm.
okay. So Jeff, do you support this motion?
Yes.
All right, Stephen,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. All right, thank
Thanks,
you.
y'all.
Thanks, Anna.
So
Come on down on Thursday.
contract has to be signed.
Oh,
Do you
Yeah.
authorize me to sign it and to sign the approval that you've given pending, as soon as we receive the comments, and then we can do this right away and it's done?
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
I think that's fine. Yeah, as long as that's not inconsistent with our policy.
I think it isn't because you've approved it.
Okay, the policy.
You've approved this pending those things.
Okay,
You've approved
okay.
them. I'm not approving it. You are.
Right.
I'm signing on your behalf.
So do we need a motion to allow you to sign?
Yes.
Yes.
You want to make the specific motion?
I will.
Legit.
I will move that, assuming all outstanding conditions are satisfied, that the board delegate to Neil, the town administrator, to sign any documents or approvals that are needed for them to get their alcohol permit.
Second.
All right, great. Jeff? That was a motion. All right,
Oh.
and Stephen?
Did you get a second?
Yeah, it was Ken.
Okay.
All right, I'm a yes.
I'm a
Ken,
yes.
And Stephen, all right, we're all yes.
Yes.
Yes, Ken, yes, all right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, great. That brings us to town administrator updates.
Sure. We have received our first share of ARPA funds. Actually, this past week, I attended a meeting the county did. They were in person and also on Zoom, but the invitation came the day before it happened. So Zoom was good with what they're spending their funds on, and they're still figuring that out. So we're watching closely both county and state as far as other funds besides our own. I think our ARPA funds are going to qualify under the revenue reduction section, which would give the board the opportunity to spend them largely however you want. So, but going through that, it looks, because revenue is what you didn't receive, but they take your 2019 revenue and add 4% to that, and then what you received less in 2020, and got that figure to the 760,000 range at this point. So I want to go through it again and clarify, but I think that should be more options. So that should be good. The depot would like to put a sign on the section house.
Can you pass that around?
Sure.
Is that okay?
There's the sign, and there it is on there. It's a traditional sign. It's not very big. It says on there, they've applied for that, but it seems that because that's located on town property, you should agree that that is okay.
That is the railroad or railway that used to operate the Boston and Maine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Boston and Maine was pretty prevalent.
I'm guessing they wouldn't put that sign up unless it was
Yeah.
accurate.
Some white dudes all over stuff. Do we know anything about this?
I do not.
Like this Paul Revere or?
Probably it was Boston and Maine symbol,
I'm
but
gonna
I've
Google it.
never seen that with it, but.
I'm gonna look real quick.
So is there
That's a
any
good point.
objection to them?
I do kind of want to know if that is a person or if that's just
know
generic.
who we're putting on our town building.
Yeah, it's probably wise.
Were you asking about the Boston Mail Railroad?
Yes.
They still exist.
Yeah.
I know, so this is like a super old fashioned sign. And we're curious about, all right, so let's see, line of the Minuteman. Maybe that's a generic
Generic Minuteman.
Minuteman. So there's a guy on it and we were just trying to figure out if that was like an actual.
Historical figure.
Right. Holding a musket. Wearing a tricorn hat.
Historic rail logo, line of the Minuteman.
I know it's a little silly, but if they could come and tell us like why they chose this logo versus the current logo, or like where they got it, and yeah, just that we're not like putting some, I don't know.
We don't want to learn later that this is not someone that shouldn't be on
Correct, thank
the
you.
side of the building.
Thank you.
Route of the Minuteman, largest of New England's railroads, yeah. Yeah, well, it would be nice to know, actually, the history, just as okay. I'm guessing it's a generic Minuteman, but perhaps they can tell us more.
So the 2022 budget process has begun. Department heads have all their information started. The deed date for 2021 is coming up, September 13th. At your next meeting in 2 weeks, Carol will come with a list. We'll go through them all, determine what's getting deeded, if there's anything you don't want to do.
Yeah, it is.
That is it.
Right.
I have one other, but I didn't know if there was anybody from the public that.
Well,
Norton's on. Norton's on the line.
yeah, we did our public comment. The other person's Jeff, right? Yeah. I have an other too. So Stephen, what's your other?
Mine was at the tour of the fire department facility. We briefly talked about the rescue squad still occupying that building. And I just wanted to prompt, I guess, Neil to look into what the last correspondence was with them And if we've had any sort of discussion in writing about how long they can remain in the property.
We have not.
Okay. Okay. Then, I mean, I guess I. Asking them to vacate by a certain.
Is it being used like another town, right?
The equipment?
They have-
You said Littleton.
Yeah, that was
I think it's
Littleton.
going to go.
Well, it does seem like maybe it would make sense, like there's other uses, certainly, we heard.
Yeah.
for The building, so. Yeah, I think we should. Does anyone have a thought on?
Yeah, I know the fire chief wants that building. I'm just not sure if there are other more pressing needs that should be considered for that building. So I just don't want us to will it to him.
Right, but if it's full of stuff, then we can't.
Oh, no, I agree that the rescue squad needs to get their stuff out of there. I just don't want us to turn the keys over to anybody until we
Right,
as a group decide.
No,
That
that's a
makes
good point.
sense.
Yeah.
Do you have a thought on timing, Jeff? Being in the real estate world? Like is 30 reasonable or is that?
When did they get shut off?
A year and a half ago?
Yeah, it was February of 2019. I think was,
Yeah, because we
Yeah,
were,
I'd
and then,
give them 60 days. I wouldn't give any more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, 45 is the end of September. I guess that's probably appropriate.
Kind of like 60.
End of the quarter.
60 seems friendlier. Are we good with 60? Okay,
Good with 60.
all right. Neil, do you want to be the messenger or?
Well, yeah, it should be in
Okay.
writing
yeah,
for sure.
Okay, so I had somebody ask me about potentially getting, I don't know what the real name is, but like the vaccine van that the state of New Hampshire is taken out to various places. I've heard it's been super successful and they're getting lots of people vaccinated, and someone suggested perhaps, like I saw it, like Dunbarton had it for like Old Home Day. And I mean, if we have, maybe we don't need like an event to tie it to, but just have it at like the fire station one day. Something, I don't know if people are open to that.
if you're thinking of Old Home Day type of thing, county night.
So at the fair would be, a lot of people come to the fair.
Like have it at the fair.
Yeah,
Yeah, I say
it's a
why
good
not?
place to have it.
yeah.
Huh, okay. I don't know how it works process-wise with like DHHS. But I'm happy to look into it if people are into this idea.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
great. And where would it be?
I know, that's.
It's on town, so the fair property, right? Do they need to agree to having it there?
Probably.
Well, if we couldn't figure that out, we could at least have it on that night at the fire station, so we could put up like signs and stuff saying, just go down the street and get your vaccine.
Right, so we should try to book it for that night either way. and
Yeah.
then decide where,
Maybe not at the fire station, but somewhere in
Right,
Sure.
there.
high school,
Yeah, true,
Somewhere
true.
where people would like walk by it
George's Park High School,
Yeah,
even.
even better.
Are we thinking of it for town residents or more just? for
Oh, anyone.
Anyone.
yeah, right.
Hmm.
Because it's run by the state and
Yep. Yep.
it's free for people.
What's the night that's the most well-attended?
Probably
Either
Friday,
Saturday or
right?
Sunday,
Oh.
depending on the weather.
I would try to get it for one of those weekends.
Yeah,
You know,
All right.
heavily weather dependent, obviously.
Got
really-
really,
Right.
got bigger.
so,
Got bigger.
I like hear enough that they'd want to go a couple of days.
yeah, all right, well, I'll look into what the process is.
Yeah.
Okay. I do just in light of Norm's comments, just want to revisit the abatement issue. And I guess in like the last 30 seconds, I've just been thinking about, I guess, like our standards for assessing these things, because I actually don't know if we have an official way to review them, or if it's like our general sense of fairness. Because I know we've granted them for others in the past. And I'm just thinking about like, you know, what was the process for landing where we landed? I'm guessing it had a lot to do with signed letters.
I'm not gonna guess.
Well,
Okay.
yes, and they were not asking for a hardship abatement or anything like that. So there is a process to come and ask and say, there were circumstances around this issue. It's not what they came to ask for, which they could, they still could, but I mean, I think I think they legitimately did not know what it meant to receive a notice of impending lien. I don't think they know what that meant.
Yeah, and I don't know that.
And that's not necessarily like on us to remedy, which, you know, someone might argue that it is, I don't know, but
you ultimately landed in a place of saying we should grant it.
yeah, I did, because I'm a softie. But, and because it's, you know, $2,300 in the scheme of the town's budget is not big, but to them it might
Family,
be
yeah.
bigger.
Exactly.
But that's me using my own emotional judgment, and that's
Oh,
not
yeah.
how, like, that's not necessarily how this.
Except there are humans involved in all of these, and we definitely use emotions.
And yes, all true. I mean, I appreciate Norm's comment.
Very much.
I thought that I'll speak for myself. I thought I tried to, you know, not impugn her integrity or character or anything like that, or that of town staff who are also kind of implicated in this. I agree with Anna's comments that there's a process, that if you have other considerations that shouldn't be discussed in public, you can ask for a non-public and you can talk to us. That's not the way that they did it. And there's the hardship option, you know, but I mean, they are selling their property. And this is like, either it's going to come out of their share of the proceeds, and so that's also kind of in my mind as well.
Okay.
Is that this is not necessarily someone who's you know, I just don't know if they're going to see the money either way, frankly. And I totally appreciate what Sherry and her husband have done for the town. You know, they have watched my kids. So I am very thankful for what she's done for the town. But I just worry about questions like this and what sort of precedents we set for other people in town.
Fair.
So that's kind of how I came to my no vote.
Yes, I wasn't trying to like critique, you know, or criticize where we landed. It was more of just like, it made me think about what do we use as like our parameters, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts? Anyone want to revisit? We good? Okay. All right, thank you. That brings us to.
I had other.
Oh, sorry, Ken. I didn't know you had other.
Yeah, I was letting everybody else go first.
Oh.
And Stephen covered one of my things. I had mentioned to everybody previously about Mike Flynn coming to the budget committee, and, you know, talking about trying to get the school budget done sooner. And he's also talking about trying to have I guess it's a level budget before contracts, which is quite impressive if you can do it. And the budget committee also, again, had some discussion about developing some kind of a 3 to 5 year plan, and, you know, whether now is a good time for us to go out with a large road bond. It'll be discussed again in the future. I'm not excited about the idea of our going out with a large road bond at this point. Health insurance. Neil, have you had a chance to start looking at an option like the schools?
Yeah, and
can't switch, it would be through the next budget process, but yes, we're looking at several, we'll go through, meet with several companies as well as options.
And I don't know if it would affect us or what Primex would say, but I read about that some companies are charging higher health insurance rates for non-vaccinated people. And I don't know if that's something we'd even want to bother to talk about, but it's.
We do not pay. It's the same for everybody regardless of any condition or anything.
Raised.
It's Health Trust.
Oh.
So that will be coming back.
Okay. Done with other.
All right.
A joint meeting with Webster.
Jeff, do you have anything for other? Assume no.
There is a little notification that there's a Q&A that may just, that may be Leanne.
I'm all set, Sabrina, thanks.
Thanks, Jeff.
Oh, no. I did receive word that user is in fact.
Okay, good. Okay,
We can
good.
make that change.
Excellent. Okay.
We're good.
Neil, also on the sign issue, I don't want them to, like, I don't think there's a problem. I just want to be clear. It'd be helpful just to hear, like, why they went with this piece of history on the logo.
Sure, we can invite them in.
Okay.
They, really, they didn't come to us. Karen brought this because they applied for the permit.
Oh.
Said to us that it was important that the board see it.
Oh, good.
Second.
All right, Anna.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Jeff? All right, let's go Ken.
Yes.
Steven?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
All right, great. So thank you everyone who joined us tonight, and